We need to know how much we must earn in a year as an RPG designer so we can make smart choices. To chart our course between freelancing, self publishing, full time employment for somebody else, all those options, we've got to know what it takes to cover our costs. These are things like rent, mortgage, food, the really cool role playing book you absolutely have to have every so often. We're going to look at budgeting today. I'm Teos Abadia, and this is the show Success in RPGs. Last show, we talked about word rates, what you might be able to make in a year if you can earn a certain word rate pretty often, right? What we want to balance this out with is your costs of living. And the easiest way to do that at a really high level is to look at what the cost of living is across the US on average. Now, I'm using US figures because I don't have easy access to all the countries in the world, and the global standard is hugely different. For example, you might have free healthcare. And if you have that, well, your costs are really different. Congratulations. You might also have things like parental leave. Oh, those are nice. So this is going to use US figures, and the monthly cost of living on average for a single person is $3,189. That's what you need to live month to month. And a yearly rate, you can see there, is $38,266. Now, if you're a family of four, that increases a fair bit. You now have to have $7,095 per month, or $85,140 per year, basically. This really changes depending on where you live in the US. So if you live in Portland, Oregon, where I happen to live, rent will cost about $2,554 a month. That's $30,600 a year. And in California, which has the third highest cost of living in the US, if you have a family of four, your cost of living total is about $110,255. Right? So that is substantial. And let's just think about what that means tying into our previous show, right? If we could write 1,200 words a day and we wrote 319 days per year, right? So almost no days of vacation or for hunting down the jobs that we need to do or rewriting everything when you suddenly realize that what you wrote yesterday was not really good. So you have almost none of those days. Your total words per year would be 382,800 words. That's an incredible amount of words, and that's what you would need to make that income per year of 38,280 that we just saw. So what that means is hitting that single person average cost of living is not easy. But as I said, it really varies depending on where you live in the country, right? So because of that, we want to do our own numbers. We don't just want to make all of our calculations based on some average cost of living. No, we need to do our own take on this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use some ready available templates that you can find. There are a lot of different places where you can get this. You can get like all kinds of online calculators. There are apps for your phone, all number of ways you can look at this. I like a simple tried and true spreadsheet. And I went to Microsoft where I knew that I could get some that wouldn't have any sort of strange things writing along in the software. And they're just really good examples. And these are all free. You can get them. There are links in the show notes down below. Let's start with this particular one, which is called the Simple Monthly Budget. And this spreadsheet really captures the concepts of what we want to do. In this one, it has 3 different tabs. And the summary tab just tells you how your expenses and income compare. These are not, overall any real numbers that you should look at this spreadsheet level. But it shows you, I'm 106% of my income has been spent in this particular scenario. And it gives you a chart to compare with different levels. Pretty cool. And what you do is you set up on the monthly income tab what your monthly income is. And this could be a couple different sources, right? Maybe you're a couple that lives together, so you and your partner, or maybe this first one is your day job, and this one is writing. And the cool thing about all these templates is you can alter them very easily, simple editing, even if you don't know anything about Excel. Oh, and I should say, you can just import this into Google Sheets too, right? So it'll work in all kinds of different platforms. But I can rename this, right? So I can just say like, oh, this is, freelance. And boom, there it is, right? Or I could rate this to be my day job or whatever. And I can fill out these different entries. And I can also add a row by inserting a row. And this can be, whatever, second day job. And so you can capture all of these realities here as to what your income is. On the monthly expenses tab, you're going to see here all of these different categories. And I will say I've done a couple things. I've bolded things so they show up a little more easily here. I have also changed some of these, including the amounts, to reflect average cost of living values that I found the US government had provided. So the average cost of a 2-bedroom apartment, that's actually this number. These I think are 2020 numbers, 2021, I forget, but fairly recent. Your electricity, your water sewage, your car payment, your auto expenses. So what we can do with these budgeting tools is we can track all of these different categories and put them in. This particular spreadsheet does it all in one. So you're just saying, here's what I think my average monthly cost is. To do this, you want to go to things like your credit card statement, your bank statement, PayPal, or whatever online payment vehicles you use. Pull these records and look at what do you do each month. Sometimes things are the same, right? So like your car payment, if you have a car payment, well, that's happening all the time at that rate every single month. Sometimes it's a little different. Like it's, if I go to concerts, then I have, currently I don't, but if I used to. And when I went to concerts, well, that happened every now and then, and it's a cost, and then you have to figure it out. Or conventions, for example, you go to a convention, it's a huge, enormous amount of money, and you pay that in one particular month of the year, but you kind of need to save up for that all year long. So you can take the average cost and put that into your monthly column. We capture things like groceries and clothing, but there are all kinds of costs that aren't captured here, right? One of the ones that's really scary here is if you pay for a preschool for kids, if you have private school, or as I started doing this year, tuition for a university. Those are absolutely freaky, and you have to track that here because that is an enormous amount that you are adding to what the income is that you need. Student loan payments that you may be doing, contributing to retirement, contributing to savings, all kinds of different categories. And you can choose how broadly or detailed you want to make this sheet. So you can take a category like entertainment, and that captures all those things. And you could just say, well, but I'm going to track RPG purchases separately. Or you could say, well, entertainment really is all these different things. I like to track anything that's a monthly purchase or monthly payment, recurring payment, like if you pay for video services of some kind, right? Like I'm going to watch all these great shows on my TV. That's a monthly cost that I'm subscribing to. It's great to track that so you can just sort of see those because these ongoing payments can sort of fade into the background, whereas you feel that they're absolutely necessary, but they're costing you a lot, especially if you are not in great financial footing. So that's what you can do here. You can track any number of these, change the amount, and what the sheet does is it compares those two numbers and you get to see how you're doing, right? So in this case, we are spending more than we're bringing in, and that's important to know. In purposes of linking to what we talked about last show, what we can do with all of these, or if I look at this and say, okay, my expenses are $3,993 a year, I can just say, let's take that and say this amount times 12. So 12 months would mean that I need about $48,000 in a given year in order to be able to pay off this, right? To be at zero. And I probably want a little more than that. So that's where it goes back to that idea of, okay, what word rate would we need to do? Or, of course, we're not only working with word rates usually, but if we have royalties that are coming in and we're tracking that on this sheet, if we have, something else that we bring in as payment, we're selling our own products, we are doing other vehicles for bringing and earning, which we'll talk about on other shows, then that's all very important towards creating that picture. But we're comparing it against that $3,900 per year. So if you need around $48,000 a year to live, well, then that's what we must be able to secure from whatever options we look at. So I'm going to show you two other spreadsheets that are kind of cool. This one, called the personal budget, is a lot more detailed. This is called Simple Personal Budget. And I like it just as an idea for categories. So if you just scroll down this, you can see how there are a lot of different types of costs that's being tracked here. Like maybe you periodically go to the car wash. Um, do you go to plays and movies in person as if it was not a pandemic? That's great. You can track that. Health club dues, right? And there are all kinds of costs that once you look at it, you go, oh, right, yeah, I do need to worry about that. So I like this just for the look at all these categories. But what it also does is, and it does it all in one spreadsheet, so it's doing all the comparisons in one sheet. You can track your income on a monthly basis, and it's doing it month by month. So this is January, and this is February, and so on and so forth. And even at the end, it'll do some like wacky charts that it shows off kind of what the trend is, which is kind of cool. And so then you are tracking your income up top and then your expenses starting here. And you put them in each month. What's nice about this is it forces you to sort of track month to month how you're doing. And that's a really good way to get accuracy, right? Track things over time for a couple months. Now you know what those costs are. So this is a really nice template. If you like this level of detail, it really works really well. Again, link in the notes down below. The last one that I want to show you is a simple version of what we just saw, even though the other was called simple. Anyway, this one called Basic Personal Budget. This one just is sort of the same concept, but it uses two tabs. You have your income on one tab and your summary up above. So I'm just going to make up some numbers. Let's say that I made $2,000 a month. And then I go to my expenses tab, which you can see looks like this. And so I can take these categories and I can say, all right, here's what I spent in January. And that gives me the total. And if I go to the summary, I can see that I've got $1,800 extra cash to work with. But if on the other hand, what I did was say that my rent was $3,000, then I can see that I am at negative $1,200, and this is a very bad situation. So I would need a lot of word rate to cover all my costs. So that is how we use this spreadsheet. Again, it's a simpler version of the other one, so you may like that a bit, or you may like the full-fledged version. You can check out all three. They're free downloads. You can import them to wherever you like to work off of. Really works nicely. So, all right. Hopefully, you have now taken a look at those concepts for tracking your budget. And ideally, you'll also take the next step, which is around long-term planning and calculators. Long-term planning is sort of any of the following things: paying off debt so you stop losing money, saving for emergencies. And if you are in any kind of social media, you will periodically see people come along where something happened, surprised them, and they now owe thousands of dollars to solve whatever problem they have, right? The house had a fire. There was a leak somewhere that destroyed things. Their car wrecked and they can't get to anywhere. All these things, when we're in a precarious financial position, we're subject to these emergencies. So if we can't pay off our debt, we're in a really bad place. And if we can't save for emergencies, we're in a really bad place. The next one is even more long-term, which is saving for retirement, right? We want to be in a position to where we're not just making ends meet, but we are saving money, and that money is hopefully investing itself and making its own money, so that one day that $200 we put down one year is actually $2,000 that we're going to have on retirement day. And because we're putting money in all the time, that money is investing itself and growing, so that when we get to retirement age, we can actually stop working and we can relax and play role-playing games with our buddies all day long, every day. That's the dream. Okay, so those are the goals. Those are long-term plans. Ideally, you are able to make those plans, but that all starts with doing a budget. So do your budget, think through long-term plans. And with long-term plans, there are tons of online calculators. There are online calculators that'll say, I want to save a certain amount. Here's how to do that, right? Whatever you think will cover you for emergencies. I need to pay off debt, and I want to do it in X months. It'll help you do that, right? So all these kinds of calculators, you can find them. I have a few links in the notes on calculators, so you can check those out as a nice starting point and see where that takes you in your planning. So I hope this show has been helpful. I hope you can start budgeting so you monitor your costs, you understand that income you need, what kind of options are possible for you in terms of any kind of RPG income, whether it's word rate or otherwise. And The whole point to be in a better position so you can make long-term plans, because doing that will put you on a better track to achieve success with your role-playing game goals. All right, next time we are going to shift focus for a bit and look at some design approaches. We're going to look at how I started an RPG project and how I go about the concept of it and how I start fleshing out different details in aspects, in this case, of an adventure that I'm writing. I hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Down below, next to where it says that you're subscribed, you'll see this bell icon. That will notify you when you get new shows so you don't miss them. All these things will tickle the algorithmicals, which will help me greatly. Thank you for that. But I want to really thank my supporters who are helping me to make this show. If you want to join them, see the links below, and you can join my Patreon. It'll help make more episodes of this show. I will see you next time on Success in RPGs.